Hello, my dear friends. Best greetings from Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. My name is Dr. Viktor Fursov. I am a research entomologist, beekeeper, and teacher. I'm studying insects, parasitic wasps, small beneficial parasitic wasps, which I indicated here on this poster behind of me. They're very tiny, but they're very useful in biological control against different dangerous and invasive agricultural pests, different insects, and even against some exotic exotic mites, ticks. But they are different. Mostly most interesting for me, egg parasitoids, Trichogramma genus, and other very interesting tiny parasitoids of very size, about half of millimeter, and 1 millimeter is a very big one. But today we will be talking about different insects, not about parasitic wasps. Today I will be talking about bees. Yesterday we were talking about beetles, which are spread everywhere around and very common, even around your apartment in a city. So urban entomology in a city is quite interesting, even you are just sitting at home in summertime because of COVID or because of crazy war in Ukraine. So sometimes it's dangerous to walk around to the forest or just to the park or just even to the river. You know, now time became is absolutely crazy. Nevertheless, time is going on, so step by step, everything must be improved because we have very good army and defense and air defense as well. So always put them like that, say them greetings, because some of my friends are very helpful in this question, by the way, and sometimes they watch my stories as well, surprisingly, despite all circumstances. But today we will be talking about bees. Do you know what kind of bees? Bees are very different. There are some bees, feral bees, there are domesticated bees, there are honeybees, or there are some solitary bees. These are different. Most human beings, it's from human beings' point of view, are honeybees. Honeybees useful for beekeepers, so they do not share the honey with beekeeper. Beekeeper is the most powerful person. Beekeeper is going to apiary to his beekeeping farm and take off most of the honey which was collected, was gathered by honeybees for their purpose, for their hibernation during winter time. And after that, beekeeper is so interesting person, very cunning person. Usually, common beekeeper is given liquid, sugar liquid for honeybees, instead of very useful, beneficial, and sweet honey. Yes, indeed. And honeybees, they have no choice just to survive or not to survive, but just to feed on liquid, sugar liquid, very simple liquid, which can be useful, but not always it's useful for honeybees. Some not very greedy beekeepers still remaining part of honey for honeybees and just taking only the part of honey for their use. So these beekeepers are really appreciated, but some beekeepers are very greedy. They take off most of honey. But this is another story. So because be careful about quality of honey, which is sold by not very careful, not very honest beekeepers. Beekeepers also sometimes were not very honest, sometimes making liquid between honey and sugar liquid. So you can eat honey like liquid. You can think this is a honey, but in reality this is just a sugar, or just sugar which was just eaten by honeybees and just taken off and just looks like a honey, but in reality not so beneficial. But let's today to talk about honeybees, about solitary bees, about different kind of bees, about Osmia bees. Let's go forward and start from our stories in a field and in a laboratory and also in apiary. and I will show you some stories about honeybees and what's this is very special place in apiary. It's late May or beginning of June when honeybees are swarming, gathering together and try to leave their home behind. This is a swarm, such a big cluster of honeybees, which are intended to leave previous colony nest behind and searching for their new nest somewhere around. Scout bees are flying around for several hours or maybe even a whole day searching for suitable place, and then just swarm is going out, leaving this place. Sometimes beekeepers say that if honeybee is just sitting near beehives, near the apiary, they're just saying goodbye for beekeeper. So there's just greetings for beekeeper. If you just came to this swarm little bit late, swarm will be just will disappear for sure. Just will go somewhere else, to maybe to another apiary, maybe to the nearest forest or park, where we can find just honeybees trap, special small home, special small box with some attractants, with some pheromones, with some frames inside, which can be suitable for honeybees. So they will come over there to start a new colony in a new place. But before they're gathering together, they are not so aggressive now in a swarming period because they are fed with honey. All honeybees they're keeping inside in their stomach a lot of honey for removal of honey from one beehive to another new beehive, new place, new nest. So that's why they are not aggressive, because they too became they are not empty, they are fed with honey. So and they're thinking that they need to survive with honey for the purpose of a whole colony. The most interesting time when just honeybees leaving the beehive. So when some people say they're just leaving beehive at this time like a stream, like water, like water coming out, and so many of them, just thousands, so it should be about 20, 30, 40,000 just flying everywhere around the beehives, and then they just stop flying and making a cluster around queen, the most valuable, the most important part of a beehive, queen or several queens, because sometimes several queens are leaving the same cluster, the same swarming part of a colony. And in this moment, beekeepers should come together with assistant and put them to the open beehive. And in this case, honeybees will slowly come inside beehive with either with attractant or with several frames. With frames, we have a very attractive smell, so that's why we are coming inside, and all will be coming inside and together with queen. Most useful situation to find a queen and transmove the queen inside the beehive. But when honeybees too many of them, it's a little bit difficult to find to find queen and remove it from a swarm, because in a swarm, if especially if queen was not marked without label on the back. Oh, and now we are going to observe different other bees, wild bees. They are not feral bees. Feral bees, we can say, if honeybees escaped from behind the forest, they're still not very much domesticated, but they are feral, living in a forest. But these bees are living in their natural nest somewhere in the ground, because these are bees, solitary bees. And these bees belong to leaf-cutting bees. Leaf-cutting bees, they have very special hairs around the body. And how do they collect pollen and nectar? Yes, nectar they collect with tongue, probably for sure, but they collect pollen using the hairs just on the abdomen, on belly, on the down part of abdomen. You see here, this big female of leaf-cutting bee of a family Megachilidae, probably this genus Megachila, I guess, Megachila, trying to clean the body because she's sitting in a little bit in captivity for a short time and became dirty. She's cleaning, grooming the body from the dust and cleaning even the same abdomen. But in normal situations, she used abdomen for collecting pollen on the down part of the abdomen. And she's very, very effective. She's bringing maybe 4 times more pollen at once in comparison with honeybee. So that's why solitary bees of the family Megachilidae are very effective for pollination of a genus Megachila, like Megachila rotundata, or other Megachilidae. Because they are cutting special circles and ovals from leaves, from the green leaves, and you can see some cutted edges on leaves. So you can be surprised, like someone measured and made a semicircular or just full circle on leaf. And who did this cutting? This cutting edge done by leaf-cutting bees of its family Megachilidae. And these bees are bringing pieces of leaves in their legs or with their mandibles, and bringing to the nest. Nest I will show you later, because behavior to live inside hollow stems, like inside hollow reeds, or just in hollow places of old wood, usually. For example, in places in houses. But the most suitable place are hollows in stems like reeds, in the hollow reeds. That's why attracted inside these hollows by making special traps, special attractive bee hotels. And here I can show you here some other bees. Yeah, but this bee is different, you see, with different colors of yes, here some other bees of a family Collectidae. They have similar behavior. They are collecting pollen on hind legs, but hind legs not have such shining scopula like honeybees. Their hind legs are hairy, you see, hairy legs. They are not hairy just because this is a pollen. No, they are just very hairy with hairy orange hair. Very effective also for collecting pollen. We can bring part of pollen on legs and part of pollen on the body, just on the abdomen. So they have a different behavior rather than Megachilidae bees. They're also usually solitary, so they're making one by one separate nests. Make a separate nest. Each queen, each female is a spring colony, and under this Collectidae also collecting pollen, bringing to the nest and starting a new colony. They can make the nests just under the ground. In many cases, so if you can find some hollows on the ground in the springtime, in the beginning of summer, for instance, so these small entrances not belonging to the nest of ants, not ants' nest. In some cases, if you are careful, you can watch bees are flying around and coming inside the hollow, inside the nest. So this nest can be belong either to Megachilidae, some Megachilidae, leaf-cutting bees living inside, under the ground, and majority of these Collectidae, sweet bees, are living also under the ground and feeding the larvae with pollen, moistened with a little bit with nectar. So their size are small. This one is belonging to the family Halictidae, I guess. This one smaller than Collectidae, smaller than leaf beetle, but this is a very tiny Halicta or Lasioglossum Halictidae family bees. Size about maybe 7 millimeters, but the previous Collectidae, are big, about 1 centimeter, 10 millimeters or more. And Megachilidae, leaf-cutting bees, Megachila is pretty big, up to meters, like honeybee. So you see here, Halictidae, very small one, solitary bee, or semi-solitary, making a small colony together. And bigger one, this is Collectidae, also solitary bee. We are not making such a big colony like honeybees, without such a separation on queens, drones, and workers. Only in some cases, family Halictidae, we are making some kind of a colonies. So, but not so huge as the honeybees. Maybe 100, 200 small workers in Halictidae family. And they are living underground in underground nests. We're not making special nest in artificial nests like honeybees. They are not coming. They're feral. They're wild bees. Very important. They're very important pollinators. Why they're very important? Because different species of solitary bees were pollinating different flowers. What means different flowers? Different shape, different size, different position, different small, very tiny flowers are pollinated by very tiny Halictidae bees and beetles and bees, sweet bees, which are very tiny and when can just small flowers to catch, to find the nectar inside the flower. You see here hairy hind legs, which are used for collecting pollen, and they have brown hairs. And small individual, this is a sweet bee of family Halictidae, also living usually under the ground. Here also there are some individuals of males of Collectidae, and I collected them just either on flowers or just on the ground near their nests, just for recording this video. Later I just released them, just to show the differences between honeybees and wild bees. And also they're very, very careful for human beings, so easy to observe them, easy to investigate, easy to take care about them, because they're not stinging. They do not have such a strong sting like honeybees. They have a sting, they're stinging, but sting is very small, maybe 3 millimeters, cannot penetrate sometimes your skin, in your palms, in your fingers, but sometimes they're just like a tiny pin. They can sting like a tiny pin, so not very dangerous, not so painful in comparison with honeybee, for sure. Comparison with honeybee, they're stinging little, very little. How to attract these very interesting interesting and very useful, beneficial leaf-cutting bees and sweet bees. Many of the bees can be attracted by making for them this kind of a very simple bee hotels. You can cut the stem of reeds. These are stem of reeds just attached together in such bunches, and I will open these stems because inside these stems already made in nests of the solitary bees of a family Megachilidae leaf-cutting bees of a genus Osmia. This Osmia, in difference from Megachila, is making nests using the soil and separate the cells inside the stems with soil, not with leaves, like leaf-cutting bees of the genus Megachila. Megachila is using leaves to make a cover of pollen inside stems, and sometimes Megachila can make a nest in the same pieces of nest. So it's open, but it's closed with like with cork, with small piece of soil, which was brought by queen of Osmia, leaf-cutting bee, but she's not leaf-cutting, but she's making a nest with the soil. So this like a cork, which is done by the soil, just from the ground. And inside there are several cells with some balls of pollen, and on each ball of pollen, queen of Osmia bee has laid egg, and if it was not parasitized by parasites, larvae is eating slowly, less very quickly, the ball of pollen, which is moved by nectar, growing very quickly, and then pupating inside this cell. And it is protected by the walls of this stem, of this wooden stem, and it's protected because of a cork, which is done by the piece of soil. Everything was brought by the queen of Osmia bee. So very, very complicated behavior, which is dominated by the instinct of house making or nest making, very complicated nest making. We are not learning from each other how to make this nest. All imaged queens, all imaged females and males, they have their behavior which is predominated by instinct. So each queen, each female knows what to do on the next season, because inside this stem during winter time there are several cocoons which are done by the larva of the solitary bee Osmia. Larva is pupating. Before pupating, larva is making silky cocoon in size about 1 centimeter inside this stem. Cocoon oval size and protecting the pupa inside against moisture, against parasites, against frost, against all difficult conditions of a wintering period, because they must hibernate inside this stem. Some species can hatch as adults in autumn time inside cocoons. In some cases, overwintering adults. For Osmia, it's a special characteristic that they're pupating, larvae pupating in autumn time, and inside cocoons, overwintering already not pupa, but already well-formed adults, already bees. So it's more, maybe we can survive better as adults inside stems. It's supposed so. That's why it's very important if you collected such kind of stems with cocoons or just for special purposes. I'm opening it to show you the structure. It's important to keep all cocoons in cold temperature, in cold room, maybe on the roof of your house, with low temperature, or somewhere underground place, underground storage. Because if you can under the room temperature, more than 15 degrees Celsius, all bees will hatch from cocoons because they can not survive during this very hot temperature. They can think, they do not think, but they can feel that the spring is coming. Spring is coming because room temperature is very hot for them, over 15 degrees, so they can hatch. And of course, if they hatch inside your room, they will not survive because they cannot find any food outside your room, or even in your room. You could not feed them with honey or with sugar liquid. So this is a open nest with some separate walls done from the dust, from the earth, or just soil. And inside around the pieces, these are cocoons. And you see some abdomens on the right side, some abdomens, bodies of bees. So bees already just formed, and they just cut it already cocoon, and they're just sitting quietly. And if I open the stem, they of course around. So they're not trying to escape because they're still waiting for springtime. So they're hiding. If temperature is growing naturally in springtime, they're making their way out. Firstly, just males are emerging with very long antennae. They're making way out, and then after them, from the bigger cocoons, some queens, some females are emerging as well. Later queens are emerging. So usually females cells, they're inside the stem later after the males. So you can recognize. In some cases, there are no cocoons because larvae have been eaten by parasites. But here, mostly only cocoons, and even open cocoons with males or with females, or males or female. So these are kind of bee hotels which are used to attract solitary bees like this, leaf-cutting bees, or Osmia bees, and where if you give them just empty stems of reed, which are easily collected somewhere near the river, near the stream, near the pond or lake, just cut reed stems and cut them on pieces about 15-20 centimeters, and making them bunches of them, some groups, and attach them to stems of your apple trees or just other trees in your orchard, or just put them on fence. So it will attract wild bees like Osmia and other. Find it as a new place for this. So you can see how they're coming to this artificial beehive for solitary bees. And here this is a structure. Here I open this, and you see here this is a separation wall with like a circle between them. So I open several stems, and they all filled with earth and with cocoons of these solitary bees. And of course, after making this nest, queen or just female, who is a queen, just making only nest herself, female not making nest. social nest, just only solitary nest. Again, many cocoons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 10, 12 cocoons in just this. After making maybe 3, 4, 5 of these nests, the female dying. So female doesn't live already in the summertime. After her purpose, making a new nest for new generation, female will die and it will not survive during the summertime. So that's why in late summer there are no Megachilidae bees usually in orchard. There are no Osmia bees in orchard because Osmia bees are needed to hibernate inside cocoons during the whole year after making cocoons. We are not hatching somewhere in August and flying again second generation in August. No, we are made these cocoons sitting inside, forming pupa and then just hatched as adults, and they survive inside the stems for the next summer, for the next springtime. You see here again small Osmia bee, solitary bee, which can be mistaken with bumblebee because she's very hairy. But this is a male, so he is very hairy. But Osmia bees with similar coloration like a small bumblebees. But the difference is that if you can see small tiny bees, which are very hairy and looks like a small bumblebees in springtime, they are not bumblebees for sure, because in a very early springtime, in April, May, there are no small bumblebees. In early April and early May, only big-sized queens of bumblebees are flying. Queens are very big. Of course, they are much bigger than Osmia bees, maybe 4 times bigger. And then they are making their nest underground or just over the ground, different species. But it's one species which is named Bombus lapidarius with a red top with red tip. Abdomen looks like a Osmia rotundata. Osmia rotundata also has this orange colored tip of abdomen. Looks like a small bumblebee. But you remember, small bumblebee will appear a little bit later in June, in July, and not in such a number. Usually they living, small bumblebees living inside the colony and will fly in the middle of summer, never in the early spring. On the earliest ephemeroids are flying only solitary bees, not and big queens of bumblebees. Solitary wild bees like these, leaf-cutting bees, and some Collectidae sweet bees, and some small Halictidae bees, and other solitary bees. And of course, social bees are honeybees, Apis mellifera. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different separate cocoons, separated by the wall, which is done from the glued earth, pieces of earth collected from the ground, just collected from the wet ground. And everything has been done. The separate cells were done by female in early springtime. I had also, but this is a separate video I will show you later. And here, small male of a Osmia bee with longer antennae. And he is not very active. He doesn't like to fly around. He is a little bit like frozen and waiting for he was waking up too early, because it was recorded somewhere in December time. December month is not suitable time for hatching Osmia bees. Definitely, this male will not survive for the rest of winter, even with feeding with honey. So, and I show you the last but not the least video with more cocoons. So here I show you that all cocoons can be separated for the nest. Yeah. Bee with Osmia rotundata with, and here huge number of different cocoons together again, and from this, so if you collected them together and you kept them in a warm time, all females and males will just escape, will hatch. That's why very important to keep cocoons in a cool places before springtime, somewhere in a cool with temperature below 15 degree. Not in very cool, not obviously necessary 2 or 5 degrees, or in the refrigerator, or just somewhere good enough to keep them in a cold or cool temperature less than 15 degree. So here cornuta, here is coming cornuta with 2 horns on face, Osmia cornuta. Queen just cut the entrance from the cocoon using these big mandibles, and moving mandibles like knives, like small knife, which is used to cut in the cocoon to escape from the nest, to searching for a new place to live. Slowly, gradually coming. You see, hairy body, little bit even a wet body, and then just coming out with wings, and the full body is out. Even they can fly very quickly because they already has been formed inside cocoons and were sitting for a certain period of time, so they're not wet actually. They're not wet, they're just the hairs only, not in normal position. After grooming, all hairs will be spread better. Let's observe if they're hatching from the cocoons, they can fly immediately after a few minutes. So this is a queen or just female. And some males, they have a smaller size. Here with a little bit different coloration. And in other structures, Osmia rotundata. So there are some opportunities to make artificial beehives for these wonderful pollinators, Osmia bees, or leaf-cutting bees. But I have shown already these artificial beehives in my previous videos, so I will show you them, how to make from the pieces of wood special holes in the wood to attract these nice bees, to keep them near your orchard, near your garden, to attract them naturally from the wild, especially to your house, especially to your flowers. Or the simplest way, just to collect some stems, empty stems of a reed, as I showed in previous video. Here, this yellow piece, this is a pollen. Yeah, you see, already can fly very well. Just hatched, and after 2 minutes, flying away. And new one is hatching. Yes, these are to pollinate flowers natural way, because in some cases Chinese people pollinating with not natural, just using just the brush. So all wild bees, feral bees, they're very useful as pollinators because they're pollinating flowers naturally. So, and they're very helpful in our orchards and gardens to pollinate flowers, to receive yield of different fruits and vegetables, which are useful for human beings, for farmers, and for us, just if we are going just for shopping. Fruits and vegetables, many species of fruits and vegetables are existing just because of pollinators, honeybees and solitary bees. So bees are very important as a pollinator. Do remember about it and try to attract some solitary bees using this kind of artificial nests, as I showed, these artificial small bee hotels, which are easy to be done. Thank you for coming. See you next time on my video stream. Write if you do know about wild bees. If you have seen them at the first time, write if you have never seen them. So now you know that not all bees are honeybees, many different species of honeybees. And we are looking forward to see you as a subscriber on my channel. And you can visit my Patreon page for support. And of course, you can send me some message, private message if you have questions using my private email. I show you my private email. This is my email, ufancy on Gmail. So if you have any private questions about insects or about entomology, or about zoology or invertebrates, you can send your message on my email. And don't forget about Patreon, about sponsorship. Even $1 can support our channel, and it's pleasant feedback from viewers, from subscribers, from watchers who enjoy insects, who like nature, and who is interested to support our channel. Thank you for coming. Looking forward to see you tomorrow on my next stream. Bye-bye. See you soon on my channel. Bye-bye. Write your comments and ask your questions. About bumblebees, maybe stream about bumblebees. We will make one stream about bumblebees as well. Thank you for coming.